On episode 351 of the Impulsive podcast, Bobby Lee made one
I've watched the episode with Markiplier.
single joke which completely wrecked the relationship between the three hosts Logan, Mike, and most notably George.
He's not coming back?
Is he really mad? Is he really mad?
Oh,
I
we
know
have beef with a guy? I don't...
Yeah,
oh, no.
I
didn't do anything wrong.
For context, Logan and Mike created the podcast back in late 2000.
Bobby Lee, he's like he makes like controversial jokes, doesn't he? As a comedian?
2018, and it's safe to say that these two have always had excellent chemistry. Their personalities work well together, they seem to be pretty good friends.
Dude, I swear to God, this guy just reminds me of the Barstool Pizza guy. I forget his name. I'm sure like everybody knows what I'm talking about. You know what face I'm talking about. I see his face and I think about Barstool.
Generally speaking, they exhibit a similar level of status. Keeping a permanent third host, on the other hand, has proven much more difficult. The first 150 episodes featured a third host named Spencer, who
it's really hard to find someone you have good chemistry with. I'll admit, like, it's tough.
eventually left the podcast to move to Hawaii, after which the role went to Logan's childhood friend Mac, who'd then also leave after getting into a fight with Mike over their difference in interests. On episode 219 in September 2020, the next and most recent third host was announced as George Janko,
Introducing the third co-host of Impulsive, my best friend, George Janko.
who was certainly different to the previous two. George was introduced as a more emotional counterpart to Logan and Mike, as he had a reputation for wearing his heart on his sleeve, while Logan and Mike were almost the exact opposite. In addition to this, George was a devout Christian, with discussion about his own spirituality, adding another layer.
And then the other thing is when you're on a podcast with each other every day, like you end up talking about like literally everything, right? And the more and more you get to know someone, like the more you get to know who they really are and not just like your image of them, right? Or what you think they were, right? And all the assumptions you had, right? And then like, you know, the things that really matter, the things that you can't back down on end up coming out. Like here, he's coming out like talking, I'm sure he's going to talk about Christianity, whatever the heck. And he's not going to back down on that stuff, right? And that's going to cause a lot of conflicts, right?
Of contrast to what had previously been a non-religious show. Outside of Impulsive, George practiced the art of stand-up comedy, although it'd be through comedy that he'd eventually meet his ruin.
Oh, no.
One thing was glaringly obvious from George's very first appearance.
When the satire becomes not satire.
He simply wasn't on the same level as Logan and Mike. Logan has succeeded with everything from vlogs to Prime, while Mike has overcome his own set of challenges and has proven himself as a fantastic interviewer who meshes well with almost every guest on the show. George, on the other hand, has always felt a little too much like, well, just another guy who Logan met at the gym.
Logan, I met him at a gym.
George never had the chance to refine his interviewing skills to the same degree as Logan and Mike, which is only accentuated by his seating position to the right of the guest, making it much harder for George to engage in the conversation. The obvious imbalance between George, Logan, Mike, and usually the guest as well, leaves George with a needy personality and an overpowering desire for approval, leading to over-the-top questions and comments, often producing a clunky viewing experience.
I need to know more about you. Like, how did you figure out that like this entertainment world was your calling?
That's what I was gonna say.
I said it, so.
But I was gonna say.
No, but I said it.
No, it's good. It's good.
I was already funnier than the kids around me, so I was like, I could tell the joke that they're gonna make fun of me, but even better. And I made it about myself.
Yikers.
So I was like making fun of myself, like really self-deprecated myself.
Generally speaking, George's attitude wasn't severe enough to upset any of the guests. However, on episode 346 with Shaquille O'Neal, George was slapped in the face with a bit of a reality check. For the first 11 minutes of the podcast, George didn't say a single word, leading Shaq to confront him about his lack of input.
Hold on, you ain't gonna ask me a question? Oh, damn.
He waits.
Damn.
He likes to wait until he's got the. Bro,
Jeez.
listen, man. I read the Bible a lot when they talk about David and Goliath. I've never seen a giant, and so like I'm literally just I'm a little taken.
You've been sitting over here for 30 minutes and that's all you can freaking say? Fucking kidding me.
Damn, that's savage.
That's a question. Jeez.
I mean, it's funny, but it's savage. Yo, I wouldn't do that.
I'm just sitting. I
Are you
have
drunk?
I have one question. Is there
Okay,
any
thank you.
chance I could, for 2 seconds, put these up so I can hear what's going on?
Take them all. You don't have to ask
Why
the
are you asking
producer.
Dylan?
Just take things off.
Okay.
After making the excuse that he couldn't hear due to his headphones, George sat quietly for another 11 minutes, after which he was scolded again.
What the fuck are you doing here? Ask a question, jeez. He's your partner?
He's the newest.
Damn, dude, that's savage.
Might want to give him his 2-week notice.
Holy
That's the
fuck.
question, dude.
Honestly-
Jeez. You're just sitting here like a bobblehead going,
Yeah. No,
Ask the
I'm so
question.
sorry. I didn't want to
Okay.
interrupt you because
No,
I
go
couldn't
ahead.
hear, but
Go ahead.
And it's safe to say that this put a permanent dent in George's confidence. He'd already joked about how difficult it was to be the third host in the past.
It's hard to be the third person on a podcast with,
wouldn't
with two
say.
very vocal main hosts.
And after the Shaquille O'Neal episode, it was obvious that George's confidence had fallen off a cliff.
and then recently I've been just getting
Dude, how would anyone feel in that situation? Getting absolutely roasted by Shaq in front of millions? Like, come on.
really nervous that I'm not doing well enough for the podcast anymore.
Only 5 episodes after Shaq roasted George, Bobby Lee would join the show for Impulsive 351, during which one single joke would send the show into turmoil. The episode began with Bobby taking a little jab at George by suggesting that Mike was cooler.
Holy frick, look at the way he's sitting. Look at this scene. Like, you see how, like, Bobby's literally got his back turned to George, right? He's like, it's like he doesn't even exist as part of the conversation here.
Taking a little jab at George by suggesting that Mike was cooler.
You have everything.
Cool friends.
So
You
this,
have cool friends like this guy? What about him?
No.
Damn! Oh my goodness, that's savage, man. I actually feel bad for this guy, man. Holy frick! All jokes aside, though, the way they see people makes it insanely hard to interact without interrupting. I mean, yeah, like, but I mean, he's one of the hosts, right? They should work together to find a solution to that, right? Like, they could tilt the camera to the right, and the couch is big enough. The couch is big enough. Well, I mean, you'd have one of the mic boom arms in the way, but you could figure something out, right? You could change the setup, right? If you're gonna change the cast of a show, then you can change the setup of the show, right? Maybe you get like a circular table, right? And you could fit 4 people around a circular table, like boop 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 boop, right? There you go, easy.
Things became a little more contentious when George took it from fun to borderline aggressive.
Like look, just to have a conversation with each other, he had to completely shift his chair like 180. And they're still like they still can't even look at each other because, like, look at their knees, they're like bumping into each other, right? So it's already becoming conflicting, and it's not like an even like face-to-face situation.
George took it from fun to borderline
And he's like freaking strangling himself with his microphone.
aggressive.
some people just don't like sucking dick. Now turn around and know the wisdom I give you.
Whoa.
Before displaying more arrogance just a few minutes later.
How about you?
First of all, what's my name?
Sensing
Oh my, he had a freaking,
First of
displaying more arrogance just
look at his leg. He freaking has to lift it over his head.
minutes later.
Could have kicked him in the back of the head.
How about you?
First of all, what's my name?
Sensing George's clear insecurity, Bobby began to roast George whenever he got the opportunity.
You have a girlfriend?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Is that your girlfriend? Without fame, you wouldn't get that.
Although the ultimate roast would come after George went on a 2.5-minute monologue about
Okay, guys, I'm gonna give you guys a piece of advice here. Okay, you see how relaxed Bobby's body language is. I'm just gonna point this out. You see how relaxed this guy is. Don't pick a fight with someone that does not give a fuck. You're not gonna win. Okay, if anything, it's just gonna end up becoming like, a drama fest. All right. And it's gonna become like personal attacks. Logan was a douche in this situation. Oh well, I'm sure we'll see that. I'm sure they'll talk about it. Feel super bad about George. And yeah, I don't envy him at all. Even George says Bobby didn't upset him as much as the rest of them. I bet, because he's a guest, right? Like, does anybody really get that upset at a guest? Just because like you don't really know the guy, right? But no, when it's your homies you see every single day and not standing up for you, right? Like laughing at you, it's a problem. It's like just being in the wrong friend group in like high school and being like that follower type, right? It's like your freaking self-confidence goes straight down because you feel like worthless. Messing with a comedian is a very bad situation. Yeah, exactly. That's probably the second point of advice. Don't fuck with a comedian.
Is that your girlfriend? Without fame, you wouldn't get that.
Although the ultimate roast would come after George went on
Without fame, you wouldn't get that. Okay, this is the comedian side coming out, because what kind of bitches is Bobby pulling without fame? Okay, he's funny. I'll give him that. So you could pull some girls by being hilarious, but being funny will only take you so far, guys. Clout can take you pretty far. Okay.
You wouldn't get that.
Although the ultimate roast would come after George went on a 2.5-minute monologue about the struggles he faced in his life.
And I don't mean this in a cocky way, but like, dude, this put me on a very strong map, and it made a lot of my avenues blow up. So I'm
It's
very
like that's-
blessed, but I didn't know I was gonna be.
He's bragging about this shit in front of 3 other guys that have all done that before.
Here. So
It's like that's. You done? It was just a long monologue.
He was just waiting.
And let me just say something. I loved what you were saying. It was just very long.
That's usually me. That's usually.
But I got what you're saying.
And in front of 3 different content creators, right? Isn't gonna pick it apart.
And you really inspired me, George. Can I say something?
first of all, don't touch me.
Yeah.
Do not touch me.
My bad. Yeah, we just need writers to edit that down. Like if we had a staff of writers, they'd be like, "Yeah, we'll cut that." But
I'm sorry.
essentially, it was a really good monologue.
Usually
I mean, them editors can work some magic.
when I do my comedy, I don't have writers.
Obviously, they didn't cut it out of the freaking podcast, though.
I actually write my own stuff.
Okay, I can tell.
I
Maybe you should get a writer. But my point is.
For the rest of the podcast, George went into his own little world, except for when Bobby got his attention just
My brother, George, it is okay to walk out. It is okay. I'm just gonna say it right there. He already doesn't have the headset on, and he doesn't care. You can just walk out. Bobby was like half joking, half serious. Yeah, I can tell Bobby is like he doesn't care to be too antagonistic. I mean, the guy's a comedian and he makes all these like. I mean, just look at him. I bet he gets shit on the internet, on Twitter, people making fun of him, literally every day. So I bet he's unfazed by this.
so he could roast him again.
All right, George.
so sad.
What I'm saying is that
better
when
when
you
I
were
was
talking, we were here for that 30 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
Eventually leading George to walk off the podcast, get in an Uber, and leave without saying goodbye. The episode received comments such as,
Well, there it is. There we go.
"It's impossible to call yourself a comedian if you can't handle being slaughtered by other comedians, especially the Captain Bob himself." George tells everyone he's going to be the best comedian alive, but he can't take a joke from the legendary Bobby Lee. It's like a badge of honor. How does he think most comedians communicate with each other? I've always thought George thinks he's funnier than he really is. And when people
I mean, my chat makes fun of me, and I'm sure they like to think of themselves as comedians.
roast him, he gets super butthurt like this generation. Things became worse for George after this video by Jamari gained well over 1 million views, leading George to address the criticism in the following episode of Impulsive by
True, you should be able to take it. Literally nobody likes someone that can't take a joke.
arrogantly stating that he enjoyed all the hatred.
I love.
Like, you can take a joke and then be mature and communicate about it later, or like in private, and be like, hey, that was a bit insensitive, you know what I mean? Or hey, we can fucking, banter and have fun, but like maybe this one topic is like, let's not go there, you know what I mean?
Love that people were just commenting and getting so steamed. It made me realize like, oh, I really don't care. I want it. I want to be in their heads more. Like, I like it.
Love how George is trying to act like he's not heard about this when he had to leave the pod because Bobby Lee,
Bro, that is cringe, yo. I've met people like that. It's hella cringe.
out of all people, almost made him cry. Dude is a clown. A week after George responded, Logan appeared on Bobby Lee's podcast, Tiger Belly, where Bobby took a moment to talk about George's behavior.
What he did was unprofessional.
Yeah.
I was a guest.
Yeah.
He walked out on a guest.
Yeah.
If this guy right here walked out on a guest, he would be reprimanded.
Before roasting him yet again.
If you had walked out, right, it would have been like, oh, it's over. But him walking out was just kind of like, let's keep going.
Bro, there is so much stuff in the background of this set. It's kind of hard to focus on what's going on. Like, look, there's a gazillion items.
Bobby and Logan then decided that they should get George on a call,
Can you give me his number?
You want to settle this right now?
Yeah, I'm going to call him right now.
leading Bobby and George to fix their relationship.
I want to apologize for my behavior on your podcast.
Bobby Lee, you shut your mouth. I'm apologizing to you. I left you. You were our guest.
I want to pull back my apology then. Because I too, because I literally did not feel sorry.
Ow.
I pulled out of the apology. I don't feel sorry, but I will accept yours, right? And hopefully, when I come back to your podcast, we can make it
Hey,
right.
no way. I've never heard someone do that before.
However, it was obvious that the whole thing had caused a serious fracture between George and Logan, becoming most obvious when they get into an almost hour-long argument, only 5 episodes after the Bobby Lee podcast.
I know people that hate me, that treat me better about my faith than you, and you're my best friend. One that really hurt me is you told me I need a therapist because I believe in Jesus. That one hurt me.
No, I didn't. I said you need a therapist because Jesus isn't quite doing it for you,
No, you
which
didn't.
is
No,
which
you
is
didn't.
true.
No, you didn't.
I
And
said,
I don't want to stand down. No, you didn't. What do I need a therapist for then?
Jesus isn't doing it for you, and
For
I
what
believe
do I need
you're.
a therapist for?
I don't believe you're as emotionally mature as you could be.
I'm not emotionally intelligent. Could you pick a time and frame any day of our
Sure.
life?
Here's one. 3 weeks ago, when you were sitting in that chair, you stormed off this exact podcast because you're upset about something a comedian said.
Logan did apologize in their very next episode together.
My attitude towards you.
I mean, Logan's kind of making a. Okay, I don't know about the therapist part, but he kind of made a point about the emotional intelligence and storming off like that.
That episode and my belittlement of your beliefs was not appropriate at all.
However, George seemed to realize that his days on Impulsive were numbered, as he'd create his own podcast before clickbaiting the first episode with the title, Why George Janko is Not on Impulsive, implying that he'd left the group. George used the video to explain that this hadn't really happened.
Obviously, I'm still on Impulsive, guys. For any of you guys that are like, oh, their beef situation, and now he's starting his own like lane.
Even going so far as to say their relationship was as good as ever.
Me, Logan, and Mike are in a perfect place.
Yet it was obvious that this clickbait video had annoyed Logan.
I'm just doing this for a couple weeks so then I could leave and clickbait that why I left Impulsive.
That's good. It's a good strategy.
That'll crush.
It's been done. It's been done many times, and it works.
By who? Oh.
Well, you can make a real living for yourself, you know? We've seen the model.
Resulting in more and more uncomfortable moments on the podcast.
You don't
Clickbait L, yeah, but literally everybody in this room is guilty of clickbaiting things.
Give a shit about this show anymore. Let's be honest. It's like bands that hate each other that have to get on stage every night and play for the audience. Like, yo, let's do our hit song. We don't like it. We have to sit
That's
here
not
and
true.
pretend
That's not
any
true. I
friends.
like Mike. George.
Well, he's about to.
You
redeem
don't
it.
say.
He's about to.
Only 3 episodes after comparing themselves to a band forced to play together, George disappeared from the show without warning, leading fans to speculate on whether or not he'd been booted. Mike refused to elaborate on the situation when asked by Aiden Ross.
Why is Georgie not on Impulsive anymore? Is that like you don't answer that?
No, I don't want to talk about that.
Although only 1 month later on an episode of
What
Jeff
the fuck? Is this that female? Is this the female Andrew Tate next to Sneeko? On an Aiden Ross stream? Holy frick, man. This would have been a giga drama.
You don't answer that.
No, I don't want to talk about that.
Oh my goodness. What do these people talk about together? Like, imagine the shitstorm they could get into if they got heated. Oh my lord. There's gonna be a lot more than storming out of the room.
Although only 1 month later on an episode of Jeff FM with Mike and Tanner Mojo, Tanner accidentally said this.
We are the new Impulsive. I'm sorry.
We are. It's fine.
Y'all are having like a rebrand, like George is leaving. Like, this is it.
At around the same point in time, George unfollowed both Logan
They can edit that out, right?
and Mike on Instagram, which was followed by Impulsive changing their profile picture from this to this, as well as
What the fuck? Why is the before pic?
their banner.
Why is the before pic in like 160p and then the new one in 4K? Like, huh?
From this to this. All of this had happened
Is that real? There's no way.
silently with no input from the hosts. However, on the 26th of April 2023, George would post to Twitter, I wasn't going to talk, but now I
Oh
am.
no, twit longer time. Google Doc, everything coming out.
Implying that some pretty heavy stuff had gone down behind the scenes. Replies on the post encouraged George to keep the drama private, yet on the 31st of May, approximately 1 month,
Wait.
encouraged
You're telling me this post with 1 like telling this guy, no, people don't want to keep it private. People just want that tea, yo. They want to freaking get all the clips. They want to make their videos and their juicy little drama. Ain't nobody wants them to keep it private.
George
I think they should. If I was in that situation, I'd want to keep it private. But all these motherfuckers on Twitter, they just eat it up.
to keep the drama private. Yet on the 31st of May, approximately 1 month later, another tweet was made stating, "To the Impulsive fans, I'm so sorry I can't speak about things, not my choice. I do love you guys, and for those of you sending me the clip of them talking shit, it's all love. I've already moved on from that toxic environment," confirming that he was no longer on the podcast. The post received replies slamming George such as, "Mate, you sat there not speaking for 90% of the time. What are we missing? Your silence?" To which
Okay, that can't possibly have been true for the rest of the time he was on the show.
She'd respond by stating, "You think I wanted to be quiet, ha ha ha." Yet this kind of statement is representative of why he's unsuitable for the podcast. He cares way too much about how other people view him. If you're the type of person who gets defensive and feels like you always have to be in the right, you're probably better suited to a Facebook comment section and not a career on YouTube.
Damn.
Despite this, George has seen some success with the George Janko show, yet Logan hasn't been able to resist roasting George's low view count.
I love this outlet, and it exists because people watch, and without people watching,
Okay, roasting the view count. I know they got beef with each other, but like, as a content creator, like, should you really be roasting another content creator's view count? That's kind of petty.
I just have a
it's kind of fucked up.
show like
Since then, George has stated that he simply wants to distance himself from Mike and Logan.
I'm at a point right now where I want distance
Because it's not like Logan wasn't at some point in his life at those view counts too. Like,
from both of them. I don't want anything to do with it, and I just move on.
Which seems to be the best possible outcome for everybody involved.
they just need to forget about it, move on, and go make some more content and stop beefing with each other. If you're gonna beef with each other, may as well like make it clickbait and make it fake or something. Jeez. No friends in the industry. Imagine being told you lack emotional intelligence by a man who laughed at a dead body. True. George is basically being bullied. This just reminds me of being at high school. That's what I'm saying. It's like high school, where the nerdy kid would hang around with the cool kids and they were just nasty me and pretend it was just a joke. It's bullshit. This happens all the time. I've seen it so many times.